Someone has said a man's word is his bond. That is something that we in our modern sophisticated world have all but forgotten. Why have we forgotten such a marvelous concept? There was a country song many years ago that said something about being Southern born and raised, and that there was a day when a handshake was all you needed, as I put both songs together there. How much we have lost. It isn't that yesterday's world was perfect, but there used to be borders around societal and personal behaviors that were expected of people. We didn't have to have the type of legislation and social policy that we do today, where anytime a domestic fight breaks out between two spouses, that someone's going to jail. The officer used to have latitude, and oftentimes they'd say, well, just cool off, and it was up to the officer's discretion whether or not anyone's life was in danger or the abuse was going to escalate. Now, no one hates personal abuse more than your speaker, and I'm sure you feel the same way, but do we want government, and can we fix personal issues that are sometimes left better dealt with maybe a pastoral visit, with maybe therapeutic therapy being offered, as opposed to jurisdictional involvement? We've never really seemed to fix a lot of these issues. Where have all the ladies and gentlemen gone? Just about to yesteryear, with the exception of a blessed few. Why have we lost respect for each other as human beings? Have we become lost as people in this corporate milieu of modern society? Have we forgotten what it's like to honor our word and protect our friends? Or do we like to get in the gossip columns and coffee clutches of our neighborhoods and get the goods on somebody else? If we do, how insecure are we? And is that really what friendship is all about? Especially in a time in our cultural history when people are lonely, they are shut in, they're having economic difficulties, trying to keep their kids off drugs, or they're trying to keep a marriage and family together with today's economic and social pressures which beset them on every hand. Then we expect our institutions to be happy, marvelous, and wise. What a quest. Why do we think this way? We have lost the necessity of community. We have lost the idea that we need each other to find joy and happiness in its ultimate sense. Now, that doesn't mean that we become emotionally dependent on other people in a negative way. And we go back to the old days when we used to play songs like, "It all depends on you," and a lot of the old Paul Whiteman songs, where we actually depended upon other people to find what we need to see in our own existence, personal fulfillment. You say, now wait a minute, I hear you talking, good doctor, out of both sides of your mouth. Well, let me explain. When we feel good inside about who we are and that our life matters, not only to others but to ourselves, and we value others equally to ourselves, and we feel connected with them in this human experience because we understand we're all in this together. And if that is really true, then there should be value in our human relationships. One time, a very dear lady cried one time in my arms, and I don't mean this in the romantic sense, and said, I feel all used up. I spent the better part of a decade working selling real estate to get my husband through a bachelor's program. And then he started flirting with people in college and people at the university and felt I was no longer good enough and said he had higher horizons to follow. What a heartbreaking scenario that is. And I stated to this poor troubled soul that you were the stronger, more diligent, and person of character in that scenario. Yes, it hurts to be used in such a manner. But there was probably something like a gaping hole in this person's soul that goes way back when. But yet there's no excuse for using the belief and the love and the talents of someone who is supposed to be our beloved and best friend in life to get what we want and then throw them on the trash bin or kick them into the curb, as we say. But yet that is all too common in today's dog-eat-dog society. Paul Lynde once said, how's the rat race? And he said, the rats are winning. And that was a very funny program from the 1960s, but all too true. How do we feel about the rat race? Well, oftentimes we do feel that life is certainly more than we wish it was. Our modern lives are very complex, trying to deal with the social, economic, religious issues in which we find ourselves. 150 years ago, it was a physical demand that was placed upon us and our ancestors morning, noon, and night. Just to earn your daily bread, just to bring in a few shekels, as we say. And yet today we have pressures from every walk of life. The underemployed have many issues trying to go to the food bank and attempting to deal with government agencies, and we just act like we can't understand with our low-wage policy and no jobs bill and very little training available that lower income people can actually have access to. Why we are losing so many of our First Nation status and privileges. We don't understand why people are losing their dignity as human beings. It's because truly in Washington, D.C., the rats are winning. And they've been winning for a long time. And there are many other issues that people do not feel that their feelings matter. In general society, the unreliability of many people we know because people are in such a hurry. We don't often think about the needs of others, and yet their needs are all around us. One course I would recommend that people tend to need in life is what to say or what not to say to a hurting person. We oftentimes try to help and we blow it and we make them feel worse as an individual because it's about how we feel or think they should feel. And the government tells us that all the time. They're now telling us in some of the poorer states that we should be willing to live on $15,000 a year, but they'll help with food stamps because that's all that's out there in our service-made economy. What's that do for the dignity of human beings and our existence? We used to talk about an honest day's pay for an honest day's work of labor. Today it's not an honest day's pay. It's let's get you as cheaply as we possibly can. And then what we say to people is, well, you've got to take whatever you get, or you're advocating the welfare state, and the welfare roles in society will expand because of your philosophy. My. The problem is human beings are not valued. People's word are no longer their bond. One businessman said to me once, I could have 5 attorneys and not hold people to their word. How far have we come? We need to really examine ourselves as people. Do we keep our word? Do we let our yes be yes and no be no? And if we don't know, or it's a gray situation, are we upfront with people when we say, I would prefer not to do such a thing, but thank you for asking? Or do we say that we will follow through and simply just hope it'll go away? Or do we have good intentions and yet never follow through? Then the person on the other end can feel, as the old 78 record says from the turn of the 20th century, I'm waiting for ships that never come in. A person asked me the other day, doesn't anybody keep their word anymore? Sometimes I even wonder about God. It's like he's gone on a vacation. We are the hands of God, as Clarence Grusbeck, one of my mentors, used to say. We are to bring God and his reputation to the nations. If God's counsel to us is, let our words be few, but let our yes be yes and our no be no, then maybe we need to re-examine our words and let our word be our bond. This is Father Tom Roberts saying, thank you for listening.